we are going to deal about the important topics that are nothing but defect management. In defect management, we have different categories which are very important as entry point of view. Let me keep this in a capital letters. Defect management. As of now, we learned all the technical terms of the manual testing. Right now, we are going to deal with the defects. So we are moving to defects categories or defect management, how the defects can be analyzed, how the defects will be looks like, if any defect life cycle, and how the defects will be prioritized or severitized. All those things will be discussed in defect management. Okay, the first one is what is defect. So could anyone know what is the defect? Many people will consider it is an error, it's an issue, it is a problem, right? How can I know it is a problem? If I see any error, which means it is a defect. So I'm just repeating. If I see any error, is it means it is a defect? Not. I will show one basic example. Let me open my Gmail. No, it's directly looking into my account, right? No problem. Let's take time. Be patient. Let me log out here. Log out and not. Oh, sorry. Sign out. Okay. What I explained, if I see error, it means it is a defect, right? So I will show an error here. Oh, it's still on, right? Yeah. Okay. Here is another account. I will show error. Now tell me whether it's defect or not. Okay. Right now, entering like this, some values. Okay. If I click on next, what will happen? If you see the terms here, so I have combined the special characters, capital letters, something I given, right? If I click on next here, yes, I could able to see an error. Could not find your Google account, which means is it a defect? No, right? So whatever we see error cannot be defect. Then now tell me what is the defect. Defect is nothing, but it is a problem. I am showing it is a problem, right? Yes, I could able to say yes, it is a problem. Is it a defect? No, it is not a defect. It is as per my expectations. I should see error message like this, right? It is my expectations. Every error cannot be a defect. Okay, every problem cannot be a defect. Then what means a defect? So defect is nothing but, see, if you see this example, my expectation is what my expectation with this input, I could see a error message saying that this account is not valid, or this account is not exist, or this account is can't find, right? So these are my expectations. Let us consider if I able to see the next page. If this with this data, if I click on next, if I go to the next page, now tell me whether it is a defect. Exactly, it is a defect, which means my expectations is I should see an error message or like this, but it's not showing an error message. It's navigating next page, which is it is breaking my expectations. So this is definition of the defect. This is nothing but an issue, what an error, what shows beyond my expectations. If it is not as per my expectations, then I will call it as a defect. Defect is nothing but an issue which deviates from expected results. If it breaks my if an issue breaks my expected result, then we call it as a defect. Okay, now we have another small confusion here is sometimes people call it as error, some people call it as a defect, some people call it as bug, some people call it as failure. What is the difference between error, defect, bug, and failure? See here, error. Okay, first, many people will consider, if you see the four terms, right? Four terms will look similarly, but there is a small difference between error, defect, and failure. Let's go for error. So if you are a IT guy, or if you know the any language, right? if you write any invalid syntax or invalid not giving the correct values, then obvious when I try to execute my code, I will get errors. Okay, nothing but whenever a problem is related to the coding part, so which means whenever I found an issue in coding part, we'll call it as an error. That's why in coding part we'll always see in languages, C or Java, anything, we should see errors, syntax errors or in-argument errors, something like we'll see errors, right? Input and output errors, something like I could see many errors, not failures, not defects, right? So nothing but an issue identified at coding part. Now tell me where the coding part will come into picture. Obvious at developer side, right? At coding part occurs at or occurs at, will write like this one, at dev side or seen at dev side. Now the first one is error has gone, right? The second one is defect. What is the defect? And now tell me what the difference between defect and bug. What is the difference between defect and bug? See, I'm again changing my sentence. What is the difference between defect and bug? Or now I'm changing it to what is the difference defect or bug. Defect or bug are same. Okay, don't be confused. Okay, defect or bug both are same. Some organization will call it as bug, some organization will call it as defect. What is the defect? Yes, we know, right? An issue, sorry, an issue identified by QA team, testing team. They call it as defect, which means let me give you a diagrammatic approach, and then it will understandable to you. Okay, error, in red color, error, defect, or bug, failure. Okay, let me differentiate with a line so that it will be very easy to understand. Okay. Whatever sentence are written, right, I will copy paste here. Okay, whenever this issue has been missed, this issue error has been missed from developer side, so developer ignores his code, he doesn't check his code, that issue has been moved to next phase. That phase is nothing but that QA phase. Okay, now whatever the missed issue from developer has been observed or caught by QA team, then that will call it as a defect. Okay, okay, now whenever QA team ignored that issue, that defect has been moved to further phase, next phase. Next phase is nothing but to the customers. Whenever developer ignores his issue, that issue will be caught by by QA team, then we will call it as a defect. If that defect is ignored by QA team and it moved to the further phase, nothing but to the customer side, right? Then we'll call it as failure. Okay, occur set, we'll copy here at viewer side. And if that issue is identified by customers, client, then we'll call it as a failure at customer side. So now tell me, which one is better? Issue identified at developer side is better, issue identified at QA side is better, or issue identified at customer side is better? Always issue identified at developer side is always better. Okay, I'll save the document. Defect management introduction. Good. Okay. So now tell me, issue occurred at customer side is better, issue occurred at developer side is better, issue occurred at QA side is better. Always issue occurred at developer side is always better, because if developer write his proper code, then their case the defects have been minimal. Okay, and if QA team is thoroughly check the application, then and zero defects will be uh, moved to or seen at production side or client side. So try to identify the issues at the developer side as quick as possible or as many as possible, so that there can be defect leakages to the customer side. So issue occurring at developer side is always better. Okay, don't call, some people call it as production errors, right, or production defects. Don't call it as production defects. If any problem occurs through production side or customer side, we call it as failures, production failures. Okay, don't call it as production defect. Many people call it as production defects, right? No, production defect, there won't be production defects, only we have failures, production failures. Okay, if any defect identify the QA team or any issue identify the QA team, will call it as defect or bug. So these are the basic information about the defects. Okay, defect definition. That's it for the day. We'll learn more about defects in further classes. Thank you.